This is the Chase Bliss Mood MKII. The original Mood pedal was released in 2019, and it became sort of legendary in ambient music circles. This new version, the MKII, was recently released, so I'm very excited to be checking it out now. I should mention that this video is sponsored by Chase Bliss. That being said, they don't have any say over the content of this video. Okay, let's get started. While I was waiting for this thing to arrive, I read the PDF version of the manual pretty much end to end. It's a beautiful manual. Chase Bliss tends to be extremely good with graphic design. Now that the pedal's arrived, I'm really eager to hear the sounds that all of the words I read were describing. So here's the premise of this pedal. There are two channels. On the right side, there's a looper, and on the left is a wet channel with 3 effects that we'll be checking out in a second. Of course, in order to try this thing out, we need a sound source. I think I'm going to use this mini guitar. I built it about 7 years ago, and it doesn't get nearly enough use. Here's what it sounds like without any effects. Okay, now let's try out this reverb. Oh, that's nice. I wonder what the modify knob does. Okay, so on this end, it sounds almost like a delay. Very nice. By the way, both the input and the output are stereo. Okay, moving on. Delay. Okay, well that's certainly a classic delay sound. And finally, the slip effect. This is the one I'm most excited about because I don't really know what that is. Oh, it's sort of like a delay plus pitch bending, isn't it? Let me see what happens if I turn it the other way. Oh, it sounds like the little delay chunks are actually playing backwards now. That's really pretty. Okay, we've seen what the effects on the left can do. Now it's time to play with the looper on the right side. Right now, I have it turned off. Mood's looper is a little bit strange in that it's listening even when it's turned off. So if I press the right foot switch, the looper turns on and it immediately starts playing whatever random notes I might have been playing a second ago. Once we've got a loop going, we can add to it by holding down on the right switch and playing more notes. And we can do this again and again. So there are 3 different modes for the micro looper. Each of these will mess up your loop in a different, unpredictable way. The mode we're in right now, tape mode, is the most straightforward. According to the manual, the modify knob should let me change the pitch. Next, let's try out the env mode. Let's consult the manual. Env mode lets you interrupt a loop with your playing to create dynamic stutters and frozen notes. Okay, I think we have to try it to find out what that means. Let's play some notes. Oh, okay, cool. That's interesting. Finally, we have stretch mode, which is sort of a head scratcher. The manual says it lets you zoom in and explore the details of your loop, spreading short phrases into sprawling epics. It does this by chopping your loop up into slices and moving through them at a speed of your choosing. Let's hear what that sounds like. Wow, that's really cool, actually. It's funny, that was the one I was most skeptical about, but it's definitely my favorite. Once we've got a loop that we're happy with, we can turn on the left side. I'm going to turn on the reverb. Nice. Now that we've done that, I'm going to try messing with the clock knob. Wow, that's really beautiful. So here's what that's doing. When I move that knob, it's changing the sample rate. So the higher the sample rate, the shorter the recording time, but the higher the sound quality. Of course, changing the sample rate also happens to change the pitch of anything that's in the buffer. Just like that, we've got ourselves a chord that can be moved up or down in a musically useful way. Another thing I'm super eager to try out is the MIDI implementation. Let's get this tiny guitar out of the way. I'm going to take my key step and I'm going to plug it into this MIDI box. And I'm going to plug the MIDI box into the mood. And now I'm just going to play a note. And I can control that clock knob using the MIDI keyboard. Basically, we've turned this into a synth. I'm going to try to turn on the arpeggiator on the key step. Wow, that's wild. Of course, part of that is that right now the looper contains a chord. Arpeggiating a chord is always going to sound strange. By the way, there's a whole separate manual for the MIDI implementation, which is extremely thorough. Just about all of these knobs and switches can be controlled via MIDI. Okay, I feel like I want to write a melody over these chords. I'm going to plug in the Pocket Miku and see how it mixes with these sounds. By the way, this switch right here determines whether or not the input signal gets routed to the reverb. Of course, I want Miku's voice to be drenched in reverb. I should point out that in this video, I've barely scratched the surface of what this thing can do. On the top side, there are a bunch of dip switches. These offer many additional possibilities, like automation, as well as the spread effect, which introduces unique stereo variations to a signal. I can totally see why this thing is so prized among ambient musicians. Between the micro looper and the reverb, you can take just about anything and turn it into a soundscape. But beyond that, it's also just a lot of fun to use. It feels less like an effect pedal and more like an activity. I feel like by using it, I'm actively participating in an experiment. The results might sound great, or they might sound weird, but either way, that's kind of the fun of the whole thing. Okay, I think that's it. I want to thank Chase Bliss for sponsoring this video. Sponsorships like this are one of the things that keep this channel going. If you enjoyed this video, it'd be great if you could give it a thumbs up. And if you haven't already, now is a great time to subscribe. I've got a bunch of interesting videos on the way. Also, that little mini guitar I was playing, I've sampled it and turned it into a decent sampler instrument. That is now available to patrons. The Patreon is $5 a month, and every month you get an exclusive sample library just for patrons. By the way, those libraries can now be downloaded directly from the Decent Sampler plugin, so that's pretty cool. Okay, see you soon.